Hello there. Welcome to Effective Mind Control. Think of this. You can identify one of the millions of images you have seen in just half a second. Could you have done that if such images were not stored in your memory? Could you have spotted them, without recognizing them? Where are such images stored? How are they recognized? Science lacks even a hypothesis about this mystery. But for science, combinatorial memories can be infinite. Elimination algorithms identify patterns in such memories in milliseconds. For Abraham Thomas, an engineer, intuition is such pattern recognition. Every act of the human mind results from pattern recognition. Human creativity depends on it. Human genius derives from it. Consciousness is powered by it. Fear and anger are unleashed by it. Without intuitive pattern recognition, there would be no civilization. Only stones and ice would exist today. Is intuitive pattern recognition meaningless? While they lack even a hypothesis about how memory is stored by the mind, science knows that its olfactory system has a virtually infinite memory. The system processes odor data to identify objects and events. This process existed for millions of years. Odor data is identified and stored for use in neural arrays. Those arrays use combinatorial pattern recognition. The process enabled the instant recognition of odors by the earliest nose brains and lower vertebrates. It enabled those life forms to distinguish whether objects were threatening, consumable, or irrelevant. Evolution added more sensory evaluation systems, culminating, finally, in the human brain. Combinatorial pattern recognition of vast neural memories existed from the beginning. While the process requires an infinite memory, memory storage by the mind remains an enigma to science. The olfactory system identifies objects and events by analyzing chemical molecules in the air. The power of this system can be seen in the remarkable intuitive capabilities of dogs. The area of the olfactory epithelium in dogs is about 40 times larger than in humans. The animals can detect human scent on a glass slide that has been lightly fingerprinted and left outdoors for as much as 2 weeks, or indoors for as long as a month. Leslie Vosshall reports that, in her lab, ordinary volunteers could clearly distinguish between 1 trillion smells. Pattern recognition of sensory data yields infinitely complex meanings from virtually infinite stored memories. The olfactory sense distinguishes any one of an infinite number of chemical compounds at very low concentrations. That is achieved by about 50 million primary sensory receptor cells in the epithelium and the roof of the 2 nasal cavities of the human nose. To enable odor identification, the molecules of volatile chemical compounds need a level of water solubility, a sufficiently high vapor pressure, low polarity, some ability to dissolve in fat, surface activity and a molecular weight below 294. When such molecules bind to receptor neurons, structural changes occur within the cell. These changes generate action potentials reversing polarity across the membranes of the axons of the nerve cells. The process triggers an all-or-nothing output impulse, lasting about 5 milliseconds. All the 86 billion neurons in the brain respond to each new input. They respond by firing or inhibiting their responses. With 1,000 dendritic inputs each, in 5 steps, every other neuron can respond to the firing of any neuron. The whole brain responds to every received input. Specific regions of the brain use pattern recognition. Each type of data is represented in a geographically arranged array of cell addresses in specific organs. The olfactory system converts elements from odor data to event data. The process cascades the data through a sequence of 3 arrays in progressive pattern recognition steps. The first array in the olfactory epithelium recognizes specific molecules. Recognition impulses from receptors travel to a second array of glomeruli on the olfactory bulb. The glomeruli array recognizes the molecular disposition of the odor. The final mitral cell array indicates to the nervous system that the molecules in the nose originate from the smell of an orange, or from the odor of spoilt meat. This message reaches other intelligences in the system. The nervous system projects data from one region to another through combinatorial arrays. During their initial growth, the output axons of nerve cells grow from one region to another and map onto specific target regions. The cells always connect from array to array in geographically correct locations, where neighborhood relationships are strictly maintained. An olfactory neuron carries a message about odors. A nearby neuron in another array may carry a message about a touch sensation. This emphasis on neighborhood relationships confirms the use of combinatorial recognition by the mind. Intuition follows an elimination algorithm. As in parallel ports in computers, an array with just 100 on/off elements can fire over one followed by almost 200 zeros of unique possible combinations. The human olfactory glomeruli array contains 1000 elements. A few glomeruli fire on recognition of specific receptor firing combinations indicating recognition of particular molecules. Those glomeruli, which do not recognize those molecules, remain inhibited, off. On interpreting this incoming pattern from glomeruli, the mitral cell array fires. Intuition identifies the final combinatorial message as an object or event in milliseconds. Intuition is an algorithm, which uses elimination for search. Throughout the nervous system, this process of intelligently coded inhibition explains the secret of instant recognition. The brain is known to use inhibition for highlighting the importance of messages. If the touch of a single hair is critical information, all surrounding sensory inputs are shut off to highlight the message. Similar automatic emphasizing of contrast takes place for both visual, auditory and sensory inputs. The precisely maintained neighborhood relationships of the projected arrays and mapped neural pathways enable such inhibition throughout the system. The brain actively participates in closing off irrelevant sensory inputs. Throughout the nervous system, the firing of a single cell is known to shut down millions of cells. There are neural circuits which switch off other circuits when their own areas are energized. There is evidence that the mind carries such systematic elimination beyond logic. This is illustrated in the popular vision experiment, where a drawing can be interpreted as a vase, or two faces facing each other. The mind eliminates one interpretation to recognize the other, a vase, or two faces. Evidently each recognition path acts powerfully to inhibit the other. Inhibition comes from many inputs to enable the mitral cell array to fire, indicating the recognition of the smell of an orange. Lateral inhibition between mitral cells is known to occur through interneurons known as granule cells. The glomeruli are also permeated by dendrites from the mitral cells, triggering inhibition. The output axons of the mitral cells travel through the olfactory nerve tract to many regions of the brain, including the olfactory cortex and the amygdala. These regions further interpret the data and send feedback messages. These messages can also trigger inhibition. Each mitral cell receives thousands of dendritic inputs, each representing a specific data type. A massive combinatorial memory enables each mitral cell to fire, or to become inhibited. Researchers report a significant process of inhibition in the mitral cell array. The process inhibits unrecognized elements. The array finally reports the recognition of the smell of an orange. Incoming data in the nervous system passes through hierarchies of processing arrays. At the highest level, the prefrontal array evaluates the final data. The arrays in the amygdala, the limbic system and the hypothalamus are lower-level control centers, which substantially manage the system. Experimental studies of the impact of destruction of localized regions in animals point to a hierarchy of such control systems. As higher levels are included with the spinal cord below the cutoff section, more effective controls are retained. With transection below the hypothalamus, minor reflex adjustments of systems survive, but are not integrated. With transection above the hypothalamus, separating it from the limbic system, effective controls are maintained within a moderate range of conditions. Innate drives and motivated behavior are preserved, including feeding, drinking, apparent satiation, and copulatory responses. But if only the frontal cortex is cut off, normal homeostasis is preserved even in a wide range of adverse conditions. Each is an independent intelligence, which communicates with the rest of the network through this common internal representation of a particular type of data. Each one of millions of smells, emotional expressions, or motor control impulses are each represented and recognized as a pattern of firing by specific neural arrays. Each element in the array recognizes combinations and contributes to the network. Intuition recognizes patterns in every array in the system. Nature worked on that process over millions of years, adding functions and features, which finally culminated in the awesome wonder of human intelligence. Thank you very much for watching this effective mind control video. When you view the brain as a pattern recognition machine, many ancient mysteries vanish. Do come back to this channel. See you next time.